everyone. Today's video is going to be all about the very basic terms of labor. The biggest term you're going to hear most often from people is contractions. When you think of contraction, you've probably heard this also in a fitness setting. So we have muscles that contract or shorten and then relax or lengthen. And so the uterus is literally 3 layers of muscles. So your uterus starts out really small and it grows throughout pregnancy to be the size of a watermelon. And when you go into labor, your uterus will contract down. And what it's doing is it's contracting and pulling back the cervix to help it open. And so the uterus has 3 different layers of muscles. The outer layer is like this layer of longitudinal muscle fibers, and that's the one that's really going to be doing the work to pull down the uterus and open everything up. And then you also have the middle layer, which is kind of like a mesh. That's where a lot of your blood vessels and all of that reside. So that really helps with clamping down after to help prevent hemorrhaging. And then the last group of muscles is like circular horizontal, and that's the inner layer. And they all work together to contract down and get baby out of your body. Now, contractions come in waves. So in labor, contraction will start and it'll peak pretty quickly, and then it kind of tapers off. So it looks like a wave. And so a lot of people like to visualize themselves rolling over waves as their contraction, peaks and then goes away. I like to use the visual of that, but I also added like at the end of every contraction, I would visualize Jesus pulling me out of the water. So you can kind of think of it as a wave. Other people like to think of contractions as like a balloon shrinking down because your uterus is shaped like a balloon. Even your cervix below is like the exit of a balloon, or like the part that you would blow air into. And so some people like to visualize like a balloon shrinking down with each contraction. And typically, your contractions, you'll feel them start at the very top of your uterus, and then it'll like work its way down and tighten towards the bottom, towards like the peak of the contraction, and then just slowly like release. Contractions, that is what those are. It's just your uterus contracting down to get baby out. Dilation, that's the next one you're going to hear a lot. So you have an opening called your cervix, and this stays closed during pregnancy. During labor, you go from 0 to 10 centimeters, which 10 centimeters is about 4 inches, a little less than 4 inches. So it sounds like a lot, but like also when you think of it in inches, maybe that makes it feel better to you. Effacement. Your cervix doesn't just dilate, it also shrinks down in width, I should say. So if you're thinking about that balloon, that little thing that dangles down that you blow up, well, just picture that getting pulled and shrinking shorter. So your body will go from 0 to 100% effaced. When it's 100% effaced, it's flat, and then you'll be dilated and everything will be ready to go for pushing stage. Crowning. Crowning is when your baby's head is visible, when it starts coming through, and this is when you're going to probably feel the ring of fire. Not everyone feels the ring of fire, but I like to describe the ring of fire as like a snake bite. I don't know if anyone ever did snake bites on you as a kid, but it's like where you take their forearm and like twist the skin in different directions. It's like a stretching of your skin, and so it just kind of burns. Then we have fetal station. So fetal station is going to give you an idea of how low your baby's head is in position to your pelvis. It goes from -5 to +5. So when it's -5, your baby's head's still kind of high up in your body. And then a lot of people, like providers, if they were doing cervical checks, they might tell you you're ready to push at like +1 station. But it can be better to wait till +2 or +3 station. Really waiting till your body is literally making you push, or like giving you the urge to push, will really help the pushing stage go a lot smoother, versus tiring yourself out trying to push when your body isn't even ready. So then there's 2 different reflexes for how baby gets out. So you might hear people say fetal ejection reflex, or you might hear people say Ferguson reflex. Ferguson reflex is what I've personally experienced, and what a lot of women experience is when you just like feel like the urge to push, so like you start to bear down. Um, and for me, sometimes this even happens before I'm technically even close to pushing my girls out, but yeah, it's just like an urge to push, or it just feels good to push. The fetal ejection reflex is actually response to hormones. So much oxytocin, you're super relaxed, much adrenaline, and it's like a lot of your fundus, which is the top of your uterus, is doing a lot of the work. And literally, the fetal ejection reflex is what it sounds like. Your baby gets ejected, whether it's, one contraction, two contraction, three contraction. You are not in control of this. Like, your body literally pushes the baby out and you do nothing. So that's fetal ejection reflex. You're going to hear some other terms throughout pregnancy. So Braxton Hicks, these are called practice contractions. So your uterus is just kind of getting used to the feeling of contractions, and these kind of just help your body prepare for labor. So you might feel like confused whether you're having real contractions or Braxton Hicks. These can start sometimes in the second trimester, typically. And they will go away though if you stand or drink lots of water or use the bathroom. Those three things will make Braxton Hicks go away. If it's not going away with those, then it's probably something actually legit, like actual contractions. And then you'll also hear about prodromal labor. Prodromal labor is labor that starts up but then fades away with the day or fades away into the night. And I never had that with my first, at least I can tell. But with my second, I had like a week and a half of prodromal labor. So I would start to have contractions at night. And then they would just like go away when I was laying down to sleep. So um, that's just good to know. Those, it can be hard to have prodromal labor because you mentally think you're going into labor and then it just fades off. So it's always easiest and best just to kind of ignore labor for as long as you can, just in case it's prodromal, anyways. So some more terms you're going to hear. Some people will say they have back labor or their baby is sunny side up. So there are different positions that baby will be in. Typically, they want the back forward or like some version of forward towards the front of your stomach. When your baby is facing backwards, their head is sitting right onto your tailbone, and that causes it to push into all those nerves, and that causes really bad back pain. And so that's when counter pressure comes in handy, or like heat in your back, or TENS unit, or sometimes people use sterile water injections, which I'll talk about sometime too. You can do different positions to try to turn baby. During this, like the mile circuit is what a lot of people use, and I'll share more on that later. But there are ways to get baby to turn. Both my daughters have been sunny side up um, and turned within the last hour before birth. Some babies are born sunny side up, so that can be a little bit more painful because typically babies are born have like a cardinal movement to be born, and so coming sunny side up can be a little bit more painful just because of the way they're coming out. Couple more I want to talk about. One is breech. So not only will your baby have a certain position they're in facing, but there's also something called breech, and there's a few different types of breech. And a lot of people get scared of breech, and it is a little bit more intense. It's not usual as usual, but you can deliver breech, and just make sure you have someone who's trained to do so. And you might have to find someone who's okay with doing it. Some people aren't comfortable doing that, but breech does not automatically mean you can't have a vaginal birth, because you certainly can. I've seen plenty of birth videos of breech birth, and it's definitely different looking and kind of looks scary, but those providers are so calm and know what to do and what to look for with baby. So you can certainly still give birth with breech. Sometimes people will try to manipulate baby on the outside, or go to chiropractor, or do some crazy things, or spinning babies to try to get baby to be head down. But yeah, you typically don't have to worry about your baby's position until, I want to say, like 32 or 34 weeks is kind of when they get tight enough to kind of be stuck in a certain position. But babies can still turn at the last minute to be head down. So you never know. And then the last thing I want to talk about is APGAR score. So your baby is going to be measured on these different things, such as what color they are when they come out, how they're breathing, like how quick was their first breath, just like different signs that the doctors or providers will look at and measure to get a score out of 10. And they'll do scores at like 1 minute, and then I can't remember if it's 5 or 10 minutes later. I think it's 5 minutes. Um, so they just kind of get these increments, and sometimes if there's a lower APGAR score, they'll have to do more APGAR scores throughout that time. And that kind of helps them also determine if they need to do some care on the baby, if there's something going on that they need to address. That APGAR score can help determine that. Oh, and I almost forgot one last thing that's also important: your amniotic fluid, and that is the fluid that surrounds the baby and that suspends baby in your uterus. And when your water breaks, your amniotic fluid can break. The terminology that providers use for water breaking is rupture of the membrane. ROM is how they kind of abbreviate it. And you can have multiple layers to your amniotic sac. So you may have like a small water break, or you may have even just like a break the top of your water, which has happened to me. So there's different ways your water can break. It's not always like the movie where it's like some giant gush. Only about 15% of women experience their water breaking before going into labor. So you could be one who has that. You could be one who has a baby who literally comes out in the sac, which is called encall. There's so many different variations to labor and delivery. Everyone's unique. Those are all the terms I can think of today, and I will probably make another video in the future with more terminology, but these are the very basic ones I could think of. And if you have any questions, of course, reach out. I would be more than happy to answer them, or you can comment if you're watching this on YouTube. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.